Brady was on cefepime, antibiotic with the PICC line that he had. You would have to take these little balls, like the size of a, I don't know, racquetball or tennis ball, and they had to refrigerate them, but you had to take them out an hour before you administered them. And so we were on, like, I don't know what time, I can't remember what the times, but Jacob would actually get up in the morning and at 4 o'clock in the morning, come upstairs, grab one of those little balls, put it on the countertop, and then go to bed. So Jenny and I could sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the little things, right? And he did that
Yeah.
for two months.
Wow.
Without question. Yeah. So yeah, it takes everybody, and he definitely stepped up to the challenge.
Welcome to Life After Impact, the Concussion Recovery Podcast. I'm Dr. Ayla Wolf, and I will be hosting today's episode where we help you navigate the often confusing, frustrating, and overwhelming journey of concussion and brain injury recovery. This podcast is your go-to resource for actionable information, whether you're dealing with a recent concussion, struggling with post-concussion syndrome, or just feeling stuck in your healing process. In each episode, we dive deep into the symptoms, testing, treatments, and neurological insights that can help you move forward with clarity and confidence. We bring you leading experts in the world of brain health, functional neurology, and rehabilitation to share their wisdom and strategies. So if you're feeling lost, hopeless, or like no one understands what you're going through, know that you are not alone. This podcast can be your guide and partner in recovery, helping you build a better life after impact.
In 2019, Shane and his son Brady were hit by a drunk driver driving 90 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone on their way to school. This accident left Brady with a traumatic brain injury that would change his life and the life of his family forever. In this interview, Shane shares Brady's story and how this experience led him and his family to start the Brady Finn Foundation, an organization that raises money to give back to the communities and organizations that supported them during this crisis and afterward. Thank you for joining me for episode 17 of the Life After Impact podcast, which is being released on May 13th, 2025, in honor of Brady Swenson's lucky number 13.
All right, welcome to the Life After Impact podcast, and we have a very special episode today where I have Shane Swenson on, and Shane is here to talk about his son Brady Swenson and the story of Brady and everything that his family has been through with Brady's traumatic brain injury. So Shane, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
I was so impressed with the work that you're doing to, you went through so much with Brady, and then you've taken that experience and now you're trying to help all of the people who helped you. And so I just thought that was such an amazing thing that you're doing, and wanted to really highlight, Brady's story and how that's developed, and then everything that you're doing now as a result. So why don't you start out and tell us a little bit about what happened with Brady and how he got his traumatic brain injury, and we'll take it from there.
Well, the data is very, very fresh in my mind. It comes up a lot. Most days of my life, I think about it. It happened on February 5th, 2019, about 7 o'clock in the morning. Day was pretty typical. We got up, got ready for work and school. Brady hopped in the car. I drove him every morning to school, to Sacred Heart Catholic School in Robbinsdale, Minnesota. And we had stopped and got gas that morning. And it was a little icy for being February in Minnesota. And I had pulled out and had driven down the road a bit, and there was this massive, it felt like an explosion, to be honest with you. The airbags deployed. And if you've never had that happen to you, it stuns you. Like you lose feeling in your body. It's almost like time stands still, and you have to wait for the feeling to come back in your body before you can react to what just happened. And the reality sets in, and then panic ensues, right? And obviously, Brady was my first priority in looking behind him, and he was out cold. He'd been knocked unconscious. And I got out, and it was I was pretty hysterical, as you can imagine. The impact was just incredible. I've never experienced anything like that in my entire life. And so first responders arrived on the scene, got me to the hospital. extracted Brady, got him to the hospital. And it's hard to recall everything that happened in the way that it actually did happen. But, there's doctors, and then my wife Jenny came, and then I have two brothers locally that showed up, and they explained the situation that he had. Their biggest concern is one of his pupils had blown, which means that there was pressure on the brain, and they needed to do an emergency craniectomy to get that bone off, the skull off, so he could let that brain swell. So that's what happened, and they took him into surgery right away while I was in the ER recovering.
And you were rear-ended by a drunk driver, correct? That's what happened?
Yeah. This is what blows a lot of people away, is that it was 7 o'clock in the morning, and through back channels and talking with the detective from the New Hope Police Department, his blood alcohol level at 7 a.m. was 0.319.
That's insane.
That's almost 4 times the legal limit at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday.
And now, didn't he also have 3 previous DUIs on his record too, the person that hit you?
Yeah, technically I think it was 2, and this turned out to be his third one. Yeah, but just a repetitive behavior from this man.
Yeah. So you found yourself in the hospital. Brady has to have emergency surgery to relieve the pressure on his brain.
Yep. And they successfully removed it. The surgery was fine. I think they actually put the flap back on, and we're like, wait and see. I don't think the prognosis was very good. He was 12 years old, and it was a very significant injury. Not only did he have a traumatic brain injury, but he had broken his jaw in 2 places, and his right femur as well. So he was in pretty tough shape. And, next couple of days, he stabilized, and, and things were going well. But then I'll never forget this, the cranial pressure they were always monitoring. It was like a ticking time bomb. You're just waiting to see, was it going to go up? Was it going to go down? And when it just throughout the week got worse, right? So on Saturday of that week, they actually ended up having to do an emergency craniectomy. So they had to remove it again to allow his brain to swell, which, if you've never seen that, it's amazing that your body can do that and recover from it. At least, you survive that trauma. So, that first week was pretty dicey. It was really dicey.
And then after that, he had some other complications as well, right? As far as the plate got infected, or there was another kind of infection?
Yeah, so he ended up spending, I don't remember the exact amount of dates. I think it was 18 days in ICU. He spent another 7 days, I think, in just like a regular floor at the hospital before he was transported over to St. Paul to Gillette Children's, where he began in-house rehab for the next 5 months. He lived there for 5 months to get the extensive rehab. And so February was the accident, and then I know it was tax day of 2019 that they brought him back to North Memorial, where he had been, to put the bone flap back on. Everything was fine. About 3 or 4 months later, you could actually tell that there was parts of his skull that were missing. Like, it was crazy because you could feel like a hole in his skull, which was very
concerning.
Traumatic as well. What is going on here? So we brought it in, and turns out that it's a fairly common thing that happens. And so they ended up having to take that. The bone basically dissolves. It's like your body just rejects it after they put it back in. So met with a plastic surgeon, his neurosurgeon at Gillette, and they had a 3D, I think it was a CT, could have been an MRI, I can't remember. And they send it off to a lab, and they print these things,
Wow.
prosthetic skulls, basically.
Like a custom fit based on the image. Wow.
Yep. Based on the imaging. And so then what they did was they had set him up for surgery. This was in March of, I think it was 2021 or 2022. The years kind of get all jumbled together now, but it was in March. Maybe it was 2020, because I think it was right around COVID that this happened. And so he went in and had surgery, got him home. Everything was fine. And then he started like vomiting, he'd eat vomit, and didn't know what was going on. Went back to Gillette, and it turned out he had an infection underneath the skull cap. There's a bacteria that they had found in there. So they had to remove it again. And then he went on a 8-week, like he had a PICC line put in and an 8-week course of these really, really strong antibiotics that we had to administer through IV. So Jenny and I did that every 8 hours on the 8 hours for 2 months. We did this. And then in July of that year, he went back in and they made 2 apparently, in case something happens with the first one. So they put it on and knock on wood, everything's been fine since then. So that was quite an ordeal too. That was really kind of a wow.
Yeah. And so at this point, he's in a wheelchair. He can't walk and he can't speak. Correct. And he has a feeding tube.
Yep.
And so you guys have undergone a lot of different therapies, a lot of rehab. But let's talk first about just the community outreach and all of the support that you got after this happened, because I know that was, so impactful.
Yeah, you don't realize how many people are there to help out until you're in, your most dire time of need, right? People that you knew were around, that you maybe knew casually, were all of a sudden the most important people in your life. When your son's in ICU, he was in an induced coma for 8 days. You don't really feel like doing anything. Getting up and going to the hospital every morning was the only thing on our minds. And we have an older child too that still had to go to school, and we had to participate in those things. But Brady and our older son Jacob had gone to, like I said, Sacred Heart Catholic School. And I remember being in the waiting room when Brady was in surgery, and like teachers, the principal, the priests of the parish, they were there, right? Along with like first responders. We had first responders. We had the police chief. We had detectives from the police department that came and just talked to us and just there. And it just snowballed. It started out just being there emotionally. And then it was, what do you need? Do you need food? We had dogs at home. People would go buy dog food and feed our dogs twice a day. Let them out. Make sure that they were taken care of. It was middle of winter. Our driveway was always plowed out. We got a lot of snow that year too. And just hot meals. You didn't have to worry about anything. And that just made a really hard situation just a little bit easier to tolerate.
Yeah. The other thing is that you have to travel for work as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so you also had discovered there's a place. I mean, so fast forward to today, and Brady is still in a wheelchair, needing a lot of support. And he was going to school, but now he's essentially graduated, correct?
Yeah.
And so now he's at home full time. You have to travel for work. And so you guys have also discovered a place where if both of you need to leave town, you and your wife, that there's a place that can care for him called Crescent Cove as well.
Yep. Yeah, that actually, it was interesting how that came about. Jenny had I believe it was a cousin that had passed away a couple of years ago, and she was at her funeral. And I don't remember how the conversation came about, but somebody had told Jenny about this place called Crescent Cove. And we knew about it because it literally was probably about 2 miles away from where we lived in Crystal for almost 20 years. We knew it was there. We didn't really know what it was, other than it was marketed as a respite and end of life care for kids, which is very unique because this facility in the northwest part of Minneapolis is only one of 3 in the entire country.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so we contacted them. You go through, I would say, kind of an interview process to make sure that, it's a good fit for Crescent Cove and for Brady. And it's a place that we can bring Brady. We schedule time ahead of time. We get 15 nights of respite care a year at no charge, no cost to the families at all. It's all donor funded care, and it's amazing. Yeah. And for a family like us that, we don't have a lot of PCAs, we don't have a lot of people that can come in and relieve us of our responsibility that we have with Brady. So when we get these opportunities, it's huge because we can go away for a couple days or 3 or 4 days or whatever. It's not a week or 2 weeks at a time, but it's just, you just get to step back from the daily, you know, grind, I guess, of life that is. He requires full-time care.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just leave him at home for 2 hours and go out and grab lunch. It just, that doesn't work for him.
Yeah.
He needs care all the time.
And you've also had to make a lot of modifications to your house. And so you've had to kind of work, a lot with insurance companies as well, in terms of like getting equipment and getting approvals for things. And I know that has been a bit of a battle at times too, like even just getting the eye gaze device to try to help them with communicating via the eye gaze. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of that process too, and the different things that you've had to kind of adjust? And
it's always a challenge. The way that insurance companies view needs of people is kind of incredible, because they're not the ones that are caring for him, and they have no idea what his needs are. It's based off of what somebody else is telling them that he may or may not need. So it's frustrating and it's challenging, but for the most part, it's really worked out pretty well. The state of Minnesota has some really, really good programs out there that are available to families that have children with disabilities that help us. If insurance companies can't help out, depending on what the need or the ask is, they can step in and help out financially as well. Because it's just not the trauma or the brain injury. I mean, it's a huge financial burden to families that it's not just like Brady, it's families that have children or adults that have some type of disability. We tried when Brady came home to have a full-time PCA in our house, and it just didn't work. The best people that can care for him are myself and Jen. And so, she had a great career, had just started a new job. Her future was going places, and she decided it was in her best interest and Brady's best interest to quit working and care for him full time. So you lose a lot. You don't just lose the child that you knew or the life that you knew. There's so much more to it than that.
And I sense from Jen too. I mean, she's often talking about, the Facebook groups that she's on and seeking out information. And, the thing that really struck me from the beginning of meeting you two was just how dedicated she was to trying anything and everything under the sun to help Brady. And so that's been, just inspiring to watch, her endless search for trying to get him better. And I know that she's and both of you have really also found that he struggled with some of the medications that the doctors had recommended, and found that he actually responded really well to a lot of the natural therapies, the herbs, the supplements, the homeopathic remedies. Talk a little bit about that part of it. I've been drinking Purity coffee now for over 2 years, and one of the things that I absolutely love about Purity coffee is the fact that they do rigorous testing for mold toxins, pesticides, and heavy metals, which allows me to be able to drink their coffee and rest easy knowing that I am not consuming toxic chemicals, mycotoxins, or possibly heavy metals. I know a lot of our listeners are paying a lot of attention to their health and trying to do everything they can to stay healthy. And if you are a coffee drinker, one of the things that I would recommend is making sure that you're drinking a coffee that isn't putting more toxins into your body. If you would like to try Purity Coffee, you can get 20% off your first order using our promo code LIFEAFTER20 by going to puritycoffee.com and entering that in the promo code box at checkout.
Yeah. So when he was in rehab, you talk with all kinds of doctors, right? And specialists. And we actually connected with a doctor at a Gillette that was, he was more open to the idea of, natural medications, not where a lot of the other doctors and surgeons, it's like, their path forward is, medication, drugs, whatever they can do to kind of manage the situation. And, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of things that Brady required. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been alive. So um, we just saw as time went on, they were trying certain things, and his body would react to them. Things that kids have been taking for years. Like I remember Ritalin was something, and I can't remember why they had prescribed it for him. He just rejected it all, like across the board. Like they had to take him off it immediately because he had such an adverse effect to it. And so it's been a slow progression, but it's been a couple years since Jenny, she's a bulldog when it comes to this stuff. She's reading, like you said, on those groups, trying to find these things. And she found a line of supplements that she really likes that offer certain things. So we were actually able to remove medications that he was taking to help him do just basic life function and replace it with a natural thing that did the same exact thing. It did the same thing, and it's non-toxic. And that's, as a parent, that's great, because you don't want to just, that poor kid's liver is probably, in really tough shape because of all the medication that he has to take. I mean, he still takes Keppra or levetiracetam for seizures, which he does have from time to time. But that's really like the only like true hard drug that he takes on a day-to-day basis. Everything else is natural remedies. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. And then talk a little bit about the fundraiser that you started on behalf of Brady, the golf tournament that happens every fall.
Yeah. So it became really apparent to us quickly after Brady's accident that the house that we lived in wasn't going to be adequate for him. And, we had kind of been looking at moving a little bit here and there, but this really, like, we didn't have a choice, really. Like he didn't have any mobility in that house. So we ended up, building a new house, and where we could have big, wider doorways and just a more open place for him to be. Along with that comes making new friends in the neighborhood. And with COVID, we got really close to people in this neighborhood. And I tell you, it's probably no different than a lot of other neighborhoods, but all the men in the neighborhood they're golf nuts, right? We like to golf. We like to get together. The first year we lived out here, we had a little neighborhood golf tournament that there's 16 of us. And one of the neighbors, I found out, really kind of interesting. He's one of the founders of our foundation. His name is Rich Conley. And in making small conversation with him, turns out he went to Sacred Heart School, just like Brady did years ago. They both played basketball, and they both wore the number 13, Brady's lucky number. And they also share the same birthday, October 13th. So,
oh, crazy.
Yeah, it was really,
wow.
really crazy. And so, in talking with Rich, I'm like, hey, is there something we could do? Like 13th place gets their entry fee back or something like that. So that's what we made some hats, and with Brady's name on it, and we did that for a couple years, and it was a lot of fun. And then Rich and I kind of got to talking. We're like, you know what? Maybe we should break this off from the neighborhood, and maybe we should see if we can put a tournament together, and we can give money back to Sacred Heart. So Sacred Heart's a private Catholic school that requires tuition, and it's hard for some people to pay that tuition, even though they want their children to have a Catholic education. So we thought, hey, if we can give back to them, that'll ease somebody else's burden. Jenny and I kind of flipped that switch from asking people for help all the time, and we got so much help, and people were just there for us emotionally. How we talked about, let's see what we can do to give back now. Let's show our appreciation in this method. So the first year was 2022. We partnered with a golf course close in Maple Grove, Minnesota, and put on a golf tournament, made a ton of money, and was able to donate a bunch of money. And everybody had a great time. Feedback was really good, so we did it again in 2023. Again, it was just perfect. It was great. We had a good time, good turnout, able to raise a lot of money for Sacred Heart. In between that year and this last year in 2024, that's when we partnered up with Crescent Cove. Jenny and I had used Crescent Cove services and thought, this is just the coolest thing. It's privately funded. It doesn't cost us anything, which is great. The average daily stay costs $2,500 per kid.
Wow.
That's
per
there.
day.
Brady needs Brady needs a little bit more than that. He's $3,500.
Wow.
So it's incredible that they can offer that at no charge to families. It's a gift. It's an absolute gift that otherwise I don't know if we'd be able to get out and have any kind of normalcy in a marriage without it, to be able to just get away for a couple of days. And so in our thinking, we're like, you know what, let's take this to the next level, right? Let's not stop. We got the momentum behind us. So last year, it's almost coming on a year now, we founded the Brady Finn Foundation that supports Sacred Heart and Crescent Cove. And so this is kind of our going on year 2 with our foundation. And we've got our tournament scheduled again for October 11th this year, and change of venue, which we're really excited about. It can help accommodate us a little bit better, I guess, for lack of a better description. So yeah, and we're just getting started, with some planning and certain things, and now we need people to sign up and get out there and come golf with us.
Yeah. Okay. Where is the golf course that you're at this year?
So it's called Pheasant Acres, which is in Corcoran, Minnesota, which is a neighbor of Maple Grove. So it's if you're familiar with this area, we're physically in Maple Grove, Rogers, Corcoran area. So that's where we kind of keep it out this way. Beautiful golf course. I can actually see it from my backyard if on a good day. I can see across where the golf course is. I love to play it. Good staff. It's fun. They got a great number 13 hole, which is kind of our highlight, our feature hole, because Brady's favorite number was 13. So we incorporate that into everything that we do. The golf tournament is technically called the Brady Swenson Lucky 13 Golf Tournament. That's put on every year. So yeah, it's a great event. I look forward to it every year.
Do you do other things in addition to the tournament?
Yeah, we're very fortunate that through channels that we have and people that we know, we're able to get some really great stuff from, whether it be the Minnesota Twins or the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Minnesota Wild, the Vikings have given us stuff, and we have random people too that just say, "Hey, here's a golf set. Here you go ahead and raffle it off." And we do silent auction. We do a raffle. We also do a 50-50, if you're familiar with that, which is a fun thing. 50. We take 50% of the proceeds that come in cash wise, and one lucky winner gets the other 50% of that. So the first year I think we did $3,000, and somebody went away with $1,500 that day. So
wow.
Yeah, we do a lot of different things. It's going to be fun.
Excellent. Super. Well, I will include the information in the show notes for how people can sign up. Is there a website that you have up right now, or as far as registration?
Yeah, it's lucky13golf.net.
Great. I'll include that in the show notes.
Yeah, there's great information out there too, as far as about the tournament, a little bit more on Brady's story, some pictures of him, some pictures of the golf tournament, past sponsors. So if you're just curious to see what we're all about, and go and check it out.
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid I'm not a golfer. Otherwise, I'd sign up. But I'll contribute to the raffle since I can't swing a club. How does that sound?
Perfect. We'll take everything we can get. Thank you.
Well, is there anything else that we haven't covered, or that you'd like to talk about in terms of just, Brady's experience?
I really appreciate you having me on. And we had talked during one of Brady's acupuncture sessions about when you have a foundation and a golf tournament. Golf tournaments are a dime a dozen. They're all over the place. Everybody does them. We're no different. It's not unique, but it's unique to our situation. But what we find really difficult is getting people outside of our umbrella of people that we know and that participate to pay attention to what we're doing. There are so many of these golf tournaments that give to the American Cancer Society, or they give to diabetes organizations, or research on this or that and the other thing. But we feel that what we're doing is no less important than any of that. And they're getting millions and millions and millions of dollars, every year. And that's great. I don't begrudge them for that. We're just trying to get the message out. That's the hardest thing, is outreach. Just to get somebody to listen, just to bend an ear and say, what are you guys doing? Or take a moment, look at Sacred Heart Catholic School. I could go on and on and on about not just about how they supported Brady, but how they supported our family. We have an older son, Jacob, who's 22 years old, went through that school. Jacob is on the autism spectrum, struggled in the public school. More so, I think it was because they didn't have enough resources to help him. And so I reached out to the principal at Sacred Heart. Her name is Karen Bursey, who has been a great asset to us in our foundation and being a part of the golf tournament and getting the word out for us on the school side. And I just said, hey, he was in the third grade. Can we just try? Can we just see how it goes? And she said, let's do it. And it was a struggle. It was hard. Children on the autism spectrum struggle in so many aspects, and academics was never Jacob's like strong suit. But he worked really hard. The school worked really, really hard to accommodate him with like a small percentage of the resources that a public school has. And he got through it, and he went on and had a very successful high school career. He ran cross country. He was well respected. He was adored by his coaches and his teammates. And now he's at the University of Iowa, attending a special program called UI Reach for kids with intellectual disabilities, that they go to this major university and they get a specialized education to help them be very productive people in life. And it's no small miracle, honestly, that Jacob's there, going through his story, and just even now remembering how hard that was for him and us and the school. But that's where it all started, right? Sacred Heart. We have so much to be thankful for, that we got connected to that community, and that community goes back to Jenny's family, like to the 30s, the 1930s. So it's like this snowball effect that it's coming to a head. So, and I want to make sure that kids and for families that can't afford that we're doing something to help them, and then also for the families that are in our situation, to help them get to Crescent Cove and get that much needed respite that they deserve to have. So that's my biggest hurdle right now, is just getting somebody to just really buy into what we're doing, because it all takes is somebody to relay that message to somebody else, and then to the next person, and the next thing we have a wide net cast, and we're expanding. It's interesting too, thinking back. I was thinking this morning about, I was helping Brady get ready for his day, and to me, one of the tragic parts of the whole story is how Brady was definitely there for Jacob all the time, helping him navigate through school, or just like hanging out with people or doing certain things. And then Brady has an accident, and all of a sudden that role gets reversed. So for the longest time, when Brady first came home from rehab, Jacob was there. Like, he was helping me transfer, getting him in and out of bed, getting him cleaned up, getting him dressed, like, he was there. Like, he would clean Brady's room, he would tidy it up, he would make his bed.
Wow.
And that role just kind of just flipped, like on a dime. It was just amazing to see that. I mean, I didn't have to ask. It was just a very fluid thing that he would just, all right, it's time to get Brady ready for bed. Let's do it. And it's awesome when you think back about that. It's just the little things like that make a really tough situation just a little bit easier to tolerate.
Yeah. Well, just really incredible when you see people rise to the challenge and take it on and do the hard work.
Yeah. He was one of them. I mean, I can't even remember, the unfortunate thing of trauma is that I forget a lot of the stuff that we've gone through. I used to have a memory that I can remember anything, and now it's a struggle just because I'm more concerned about, my focus is on Brady and what his day is, and I forget about something like that. He had, in Brady's room, there's a little picture that Jacob had drawn, I think right after he got hurt, because Jacob was 15 at the time. And it said on there a couple of stick people, and it said best friends forever on there. And that's what triggered that memory. As I was like, oh my God, that's right. I forgot about how he, and when I was telling you about how he Brady was on cefepime, antibiotic with the PICC line that he had. You would have to take these little balls like the size of a, I don't know, racquetball or tennis ball, and they had to refrigerate them, but you had to take them out an hour before you administered them. And so we were on, like, I don't know what time, I can't remember what the times, but Jacob would actually get up in the morning and at 4 o'clock in the morning, come upstairs, grab one of those little balls, put it on the countertop, and then go to bed. So Jenny and I could sleep. So we
Oh,
could just,
wow.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just the little things, right? And he did that
Yeah.
for two months without question,
Wow.
like without question. Yeah. So yeah, it takes everybody, and he definitely stepped up to the challenge, and I'm not surprised now looking at how he's doing. He's just about ready to finish up his first year. He comes home next weekend,
Mhm.
and how he's excelled, and his future, his sky's the limit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was so happy to hear that he got that scholarship and was able to do that program, because it sounds
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing, and like he's been able to make a lot of friends and take part in all kinds of cool activities, and
Yeah.
sounds really cool.
I think he's actually kind of dreading coming home, which is when he left. I think he was like, "What did I get myself into? Can I really do this?" And now at the end of the year, he's like, "I'm kind of bummed out that I'm having to come home." Yeah, I'm like, "Wow, what a change!" I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but he's very excited to go back in the fall already. So,
Well, and I just think it's so amazing with everything you've been through that you're taking that experience and you're saying, how can we give back to all the people who supported us? So I think that's incredible. And I hope I can help in spreading the word about the tournament and the fundraiser. I will be happy to put all of these kind of contacts in the show notes. And like I
okay.
said, try to spread the word and help promote your tournament, Brady's tournament, and try to help make that a big success for you all.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show and sharing your story and Brady's story.
Anytime.